hello again. Hope it's not too bright. New studio and all the rest of it. You can see it's not bad, not too bad. Picture of that's me, made out of crisp packets. Anyway, enough rambling. You know what it is. Talking points. We're back again. Me and the guests. The guests will be brought out very shortly because, as always, I have to find the introduction.
It's just different.
Hello and welcome to PRTv. I am Spurs for Life, and this is Talking Points episode number 120, entitled "Is This Where We Want to Be?" Well, we're fifth in the league, potentially a top four run is on. Joining me to discuss all things Spurs and what's going on with season ticket prices, all the rest of it. Getting my tongue tied here. I don't like that view. Like this view better. My man, my main man, Sid Spurs. Sid Spurs. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Looking forward to the game on Sunday. Should be. I wonder how many people are asking for a payback, or will it be a cashback?
Who knows? Who knows what we're going to get with Spurs come Sunday? However, there is obviously a great deal to play for us. We ain't going to go into preview mode, but let's talk Spurs in just general terms, I guess. First things first, season ticket prices. Me and you had a little bit of a discussion the other day. What do you think of that? 6% increase, a few stipulations, senior citizens, all the rest of it. What's going on, Sid? They're just trying to take more money out of us. I thought they were making enough. One of the richest clubs in the world.
Listen, there's a certain woman from Essex that used to sing a song about, it's all about the money. We need all your money. But you know what? It's obviously he's saying they've not had an increase in about 3-4 seasons, but then to smash it up with 6%, which okay, you can understand, but 6% is quite a lot. I've got 4 season tickets, so for me, 6% on 4 season tickets is a hell of a lot of money, right? And they're saying that, you know what, we're in a worse economic crisis and this, that, the other, and then to put it up by 6%. Where do we earn the most money in the Prem as a football club on match day revenues? I think we probably earn the most in Europe. Amount of money they're making, right? And then they're turning around saying electricity's gone up, this cost has gone up, that cost has gone up, everything's gone up, the price of food's gone up. So fans are still paying it, the food and everything like that. So at the end of the day, 6% for me is quite a lot. But what's really, really disturbing is the fact that the senior citizens discount after 24-25 season is going to be non-existent. Only club in the Premier League to charge senior citizens full price. Come on, Mr. Levy. Seriously? Out of all the chairmen, all the clubs in the Prem, you earn the most money. You charged probably the most prices for season tickets or match day prices, and now you're gonna completely isolate senior citizens that come from miles and miles. Doesn't matter where they come from, they could come from next door, but to double their price, it's an absolute disgrace. And I hope the Tottenham Hotspur Supporters Club and the fan club and everybody else is looking into this and they make a big song and dance about it. Not only that, plus the 6%, because like I said, I've got to pay for 4 season tickets, and it's not bloody cheap. I don't mind if we were winning trophies like Man City week in, week out, right, and stuff like that. We ain't won a trophy for how many years? You know, we don't buy players. So where is this money going? It's ridiculous. F1 is making money from, NFL is making money from, concerts, everything, and they want to put 6% on all prices. Daniel Levy, come on.
Yeah, and I guess for me, looking at my season ticket in the West Stand, it's a little bit more anyway, because it's the West Stand and it's supposedly the view of it. But yeah, 6% on top of 1,400 quid. Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to be 1,400 quid now anyway. But it's it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And as you rightly said, yeah, we're getting entertained this season, but it's not like we're in the cup finals, semi-finals, quarterfinals. We're fifth in the league. We are still 6 points behind Villa, or is it 5, whatever it would be. Got them on Sunday. Go on, what was you going to say?
Are we getting entertained, Shane?
That's
getting
a very,
entertained?
very good question, because I've always maintained football is about winning, ultimately winning trophies. Now, yes, it has changed in terms of the Premiership, Premier League came in, and with the influx of money over the years, the influx of players have come into the league, the influx of managers. So we've got the best of the best. I'm assuming when you've got the best of the best, you assume that you've got the best football as well. Now, that's good. But as I said, the way that we're playing at the moment, is that sustainable for us to win a trophy? Not quite so sure. Even, I've always mentioned this, even the likes of Manchester City, they changed. Now, there was a really good thing when Manchester City played Man United the other night, and how Pep basically utilised John Stones in a different way. You know, playing from a back three, coming into midfield, and then even going into that number 10 position. And I watched that for Pep knows what he's doing, obviously, but he doesn't know what he's doing from that perspective. But he also adapts his team according to what the opposition is doing. He knew that they were going to man mark. He knew that they were going to be very tight. So what do you have to do? You have to do something. You can't just play your normal game. Or if you did play your normal game, he might not have been as successful. Hindsight's a wonderful thing with that. But looking at that game in general, it's finding them spaces, created as much space as he can by nullifying the strengths of Manchester United at the time, which is probably defending deep and maybe counter-attacking. I want to see Ange do something like that, adapt possibly. Now, Sunday is going to be a prime example of that. I remember when Aston Villa came to our place, they wanted to play like they've been playing for the last X amount of time. We were probably both at that game. And what I saw was a team that decided, oh, wait there, no way, no. We can't play like this. Unai Emery said, we can't play like this and get a result. They changed it. They didn't necessarily sacrifice putting everybody behind the ball, but they made sure that they were a little bit more solid. Do you think that Ange is going to have to adapt somehow to the rigors of the Premier League? I'm talking about probably next season, not so much this season, because I think we're going to play like how we're going to play. How do you see him going? Because like I said, if we are going to be entertained, I want to be entertained and get some silverware at the back of it. Oh,
do you know?
That
was Ange ringing to tell me. Do you know what?
Don't talk about it. He was going to say, don't say nothing, Sid.
Don't say nothing, yeah. I think Ange is not going to change his ways. And he's already said it. This is the way he plays. This is the way he played at Celtic. He never changed it. The only way, what changes for me next season will be the personnel. Because I believe he's trying to get the players to adapt to his style of play. He wants players that can adapt to his style of play. He's not looking for players that Ange can adapt to, get them to, their way. It's Ange's way by the looks of it. And he'll be looking at players in the summer that will fit his caliber of football. I don't think he'll change next season. I think it'll still be the same way. We've seen it all this season. There's games where, like you said, Villa was one, Brighton, there was all the other games. But if he buys the players that he wants, which he probably will, maybe not, depends on how much money Daniel Levy makes from these season tickets and whether they get it or not. Who knows? So I don't think it changes. And we've seen this how many times this season where we've gone behind and we've said that he needs to change his style of play. We're not doing it. Even if we're 1-0 up, 2-0 up, his style of play does not change. And that going forward might be a problem next season because already teams have already sussed us out this season. Like you said, the Villa was prime example. We absolutely battered them first half. But as we was kicking towards the Paxton Road end, we decided not to score any goals and leave it for the second half. Then he went in 15 minutes, Unai Emery, decided, let's change this up. He changed it, tweaked it, and they came back and won the game. So clubs and managers are sussing Spurs out, and we don't have an answer to that. And unfortunately, unless it changes next season, which I don't think it will, this is how it's going to be.
So the caveat to that is quality. If you improve your quality, I think you can play pretty much how you want. The top managers have kind of proved that. As I said, the example I gave of Pep Guardiola earlier was just because he's like that. But generally, they play it a certain way, a certain brand of football, and it's very successful to them because they have the quality. It looks like we are on a bit of a mission now in terms of our philosophy for buying players. It looks like we're going for that younger age group of players, the Destiny Doggies, Papa Sarr, two to mention, Dragusin again, another one, Mickey van der Ven, all under 23. And that's good. That's good because they've all got potential, but they are actually playing decent level of football. Dragusin probably not so at the moment, but I think he's going to be there for next year. So we have to have the quality, but it looks as if that, Ange has got a defined way of playing, and it doesn't look like it's going to change. It hasn't changed from his Celtic days. It hasn't changed from his Japan days and his Australian days. So I don't know what I'm expecting, but I do know that this league is a lot harder than those leagues. And I do know that if you continue to just play the same way, teams will suss you out. All of the teams who don't quite have the top quality players get found out. Arsenal got found out last season. Even to a degree part of this season. Every team gets a result that they kind of think, oh, bloody hell, we might be have to change something here because you've been on a bit of a run and something changes because the team sussed you out. And I like some of the managers, Gary O'Neill's, the likes of him, the De Zerbi's, they've all got them sort of qualities to think, right, I want to play this way, but I want to beat this team. I'm going to play this way. Wolves did that to us twice. That's unforgivable for me because they haven't really ripped up much trees in terms of the whole season, but, get a bit of motivation, know how our team's playing, want to get a result. That's what they've done. So for next season, for me, Sid, I do think we have to have a little bit more adaptability. Maybe even look to a back three. Potentially, someone could come from that back three because we've got quality players on the ball. Do you see the system changing, or you think it's going to be, like I said, the same 4-2-3-1, 4-1, 4-1, if you want to look at it that way, or however it appears that the back three doesn't seem to be on his mind?
Do you know what? I don't think he will change, but we've got it in there in terms of we can have Dragusin, Romero, Van der Ven as the back three. We can have Destiny and Pedro Porro on the right. And the reason I'm saying that is because I think Porro going forward is a better option than Kulu on the right. Because I don't think Kulu does it enough for me. Whereas Pedro actually goes down the right. He can cross the ball in. Destiny can do the same. So back three can be, because we've got, do you know what? I've already read a few things yesterday and the day before about Dragusin and what's going to happen. Is he now starting to feel a bit uneasy? Is he going to ask for a loan? Or Spurs going to have to, is in the summer, could he end up being sold? I've all that nonsense going on, right? Obviously, because they want to try and unsettle the player. But why not try a back three? If they're good enough, the quality, like Man City have done it. They're playing goalkeepers at left back and right back. And I'm being sarcastic there, but they're playing, you know what I mean? They're playing centre backs all across the back four. They're playing them in the midfield. Stones, prime example, like you said. Okay, they've been doing it with all of them. So if your player is good enough, and if the manager thinks you're good enough, you can adapt that player to how you want, like you just said about Pep, how you want, where you want him to play, and he'll do a job for you. I think Romero, Dragusin, and Van der Ven can play the back three with Porro and Destiny in the wing backs. In the middle, then you then tweak it. We've got the players. You've got Basuma, you've got Bentancur, you've got Sarr, you've got Maddison, you've got then you got Werner, Johnson, Son, Richarlison. It can work, and it can still be the attacking football, but you're a lot safer with three at the back. But
yeah,
I don't see it happening because we've said this and we've discussed this many, many, many times. Postecoglou doesn't like to change things, even when you're down and stuff like that. So some of the substitutions, sometimes he leaves it too late. stuff like that. So I don't know. I personally don't think he changes to a back three. I would love to see it. I think a lot of Spurs fans would love to see it. But it was like this discussion the other day. I don't know if I can't remember where it was. Somebody mentioned about the under 21s. I think it was after the football last weekend. I think it was on the way home from the Palace game, or was it Man United? A Man United game, I think, on Sunday. They were saying clubs are bringing in youngsters, giving them minutes, debuts. Spurs haven't done it, and Spurs refuse to do it. And I think somebody asked the question, why does it not happen at Spurs? Every other club is giving these youngsters opportunities from the academies, but Tottenham are not doing it with anyone. All right, Kane, Skip, you could say. But then that's it. And there's so much potential, but it's not been happening. So, again, with this system, I don't know. Are we now going to go to the summer where he buys more players, forgets about the youngsters that are up and coming, and then they'll end up going elsewhere? And I'm at the moment, this Dragusin one, we went held level for him. I'm still a little confused now. He's played what, about 5-10 minutes? So I don't know.
The only thing I can say about the Dragonson thing is he might need time to settle. That's what they always say when you buy a player in January. I think we've got a little bit lucky that when we got Kulishevsky and Bentancur in, they both went straight into the team pretty much in January. But usually there's a bit of a transition period. And usually come January, come the end of January, when we usually buy our players, it's the end of January as opposed to the beginning. And then you're only talking February, March, April, as opposed to the season being done in May. So I have a bit of, okay, we might not see as much of Dragonson going forward, but there's been times this season already when we had opportunities to be a little bit more solid at the back. We've conceded pretty much every game. I know we've had a few clean sheets in the league, but it's been not many. Is it 5 or 6 in the league? I think it's 6 out of 26 games. I think it's 6 clean sheets out of 26 games.
I think it might be 5 actually.
And if it's 5, it's even worse because it just means a team like us, we need to be keeping clean sheets. Now, if you're midfield, because we had a bit of a midfield crisis at one point, Papasol was out, Basura was out via injury, via African nations, etc., etc. Skip wasn't quite cutting it. Højbjerg, is it 5?
Yeah.
There you go. Højbjerg, again, we're not sure if he wants to stay, whether he wants to go. Bentancur was injured. We had some trouble. We had some real trouble in midfield. And I thought at that point, because you've got quality players at the back, like Romero, like Van de Ven, who I think can step into that midfield, potentially could have played that 3 at the back, not sacrificed anything, but just changed that from an aspect of, oh shit, the other team's now thinking, oh my God, what are they doing? Oh shit, they play. And by the time they've got around to it, as I keep saying, that getting that goal in that first 5 to 10 minutes. Let's talk about that as well, because I'm tired of that.
Just before we move on, I disagree with what you said about a player. If you're buying him in, it's about transition. I disagree. Okay. If a player's good enough and you're buying him, you've scouted that player. You know he's good enough. If he's good enough, there's no transition. You play him. City have done it. Liverpool have done it. Man United have done it. Arsenal have done it. If a player is good enough to play, Brighton have done it. Aston Villa have done it. If he's good enough, you've bought him, you spent good money on him. I don't see the transition. You're training, you're playing with the team, you can come straight in and play. How long are you going to give him transition? How many months has he had already now? Right? And also, we've played, if you remember, a couple of games with about 5 minutes to go. We've played with 3 at the back when he's bought on Dragusin. So why not start with it? You know what I mean? I'm not saying obviously you're wrong, but I'm saying if a player is good enough and you spent big money on him, he goes straight into the team. You can make room for him if you want to, And like you said, they've had opportunities to do it, but he hasn't done it. So this thing about transitioning and the player, I disagree sometimes. I think if a player's good enough and you spent a lot of money, you spent how many weeks and months trying to buy a player, you know what his capabilities are, you know how good he is. Put him in.
And I guess that does work, because you think of it like the other way around. If Bayern Munich, who bought Harry Kane and Derek Dyer, they put him straight in. You know, there was
Exactly.
no transition. There was none
No.
of that.
This is what
And
I'm
I guess
saying.
we look at it from our point of view. When Van der Ven came here in the summertime, same thing. He went straight in. I think it was that same week that he
Exactly.
came. So you're right. If the player is good enough, then they go in. That then adds the question, or begs the question for me: is he good enough? He's right-sided. Now we've already seen, and we have this discussion. This is what I wanted to kind of discuss before. If a player's good enough and he's got that adaptability, now we've seen the adaptability of Ben Davies and Emerson Royal, who I don't think are the best quality footballers in the world, but certainly Ben Davies has got the professionalism. Emerson Royal is definitely determined and he wants to do his best. So I can't knock any player for being that. But when it comes to quality, I think we lack in those two players potentially. Now, Dragerson, I heard, has played right back. But again, if he's going to come in the back four, is he going to take the place of Romero? Not at this present time, unless Romero's out for whatever reason, injured or suspension. He's obviously cleaned up on his suspensions and yellow cards or the rest of it. So he's likely to be in there. Part of the leadership team as well. He's not going to be not in the team. Which therefore means he's only going to have the potential in the back four to play Van der Ven's role. And now Van der Ven being left-sided, left-footed, and being the quickest player in the league, I don't think, again, he's going to be the one to come out unless, of course, he's injured or whatever. And there's been a couple of times when we've seen it. The last game, when he was limping, the last home game, should I say, and he went down. I was like, oh, my God, I think you said the same thing. I think you sent me a message and said, what's going on? Van der Ven. And I was like, pray. And he was all right. But that was the only reason why I think we might get somebody else in. So is he good enough? Is he good enough to challenge these players at this moment? Does he need time to improve and get better? That's the only reason I'm saying maybe there's a transition for him. But you're right in what you said. If he's good enough that he's been brought in to challenge these players, why haven't we seen him a little bit more of him?
This is because obviously there was upset Tapsoba, there were upset a couple of other defenders, and then Dragusin, and they negotiated a lot because then somebody else came in and there was a lot. So unless our scouting network is crap, right? Unless our scouting network is crap and they've just panic bought this player, or they've just bought him because he's 22 years old with a sell-on fee or whatever, I don't know. But I don't think so. Postecoglou is not the kind of guy who's going to authorize a player's signing if he thinks Daniel Levy wants to sell him in 2 years or in the summer. I'm sure Ange's obviously looked at it. He's looked at the player. He's done his homework, and he said, yes, I want this player. Now, where he's going to fit into this team and when, only Ange knows that. Maybe you're right. Maybe Ange's saying that I'm just going to let him sit back and I'll assess it and then I'll take it from there. Or do I just throw him in? We know what he's done. He's letting him sit back with Romero and Van der Ven made the main two. But, and I'll say, Man City, they've gone 2 or 3 at the back. They've played. If he plays at right back, play him at right back. He can't do any worse than Emerson Royal has. He's 22 years old. He's eager. We've seen him. He's keen. He wants to play. So when are you going to give him the opportunity? And, 3 at the backs, why not? You've got 3 quality players. Well, we don't know the quality of him yet, but when are we going to find out?
We need to find out.
Is this going to be one of these scenarios? Are we now waiting for a scenario where, and I'll say it, but last time I said it, I got hammered for it. Are we waiting for a scenario where one of them two gets injured again at the back and then we throw him in? And then everyone's going to say, oh my God, he's just thrown him in. He's shit. He didn't get enough game time. He should have had You know what I mean? It's going to be one of them. You can't win situations because you're not playing him. One of the 2 defenders gets injured. You put him in. He has a bad game. He has a stinker. Oh, we shouldn't have sold this guy. We shouldn't have sold Dyer. We should have kept Sanchez. He's shit. Blah, blah, blah. Man's not had any game. So when are we going to see that? So it's a very tricky situation, but you've got to try it, man. You've got to, certain games, even Villa, it's going to be a hard game. Why can't we go 3 at the back against Villa? Make it hard for Villa at Villa Park.
Yeah. Just back on the Dragonson thing. I can understand with centre backs, if he's going to play centre back, let's forget the right back scenario for the moment,
Yeah.
because I agree with you. I do think if Emerson Royal can play right back for us and not be the most attacking threat, but he can defend. I don't even think he's the greatest defender. Surely somebody who's got more pace, more athleticism, probably taller, probably a better defender, possibly better going forward. And these are all the things I'm saying about Dragonson without seeing him play for us, but seeing what I've seen from his previous club. That would give us a bit more threat going forward and a bit more solidity at the back. Okay, so if he's not going to play right back and he's going to play centre back, I can understand to a degree why you wouldn't necessarily change him. We've never been comfortable in a lot of our games recently. We've got somebody else coming in, so we're going to add him in. Darius 3K, welcome. We're just on a little bit of a chat, so we'll bring you in a minute. Dragonson was talking about why he hasn't made too many appearances for us, but then, as I said, I can understand why they wouldn't want to change a back to at any point in the game unless you're really comfortable. So I can get that to a degree. But what I don't understand is when we want to kind of change things up, the right back and left back, I think, is a different position because it's not right back and left back per se. They're more inside midfielders. They're more, do you know what I mean? That kind of, I say they're inside midfielders. What I mean by that is they're not playing on the wings so much, but they have the potential to go out there, but they're playing more football related positions as opposed to a defensive position. Now, that brings another bit of additional quality aspect to it. I don't think Emerson Royal's got that quality. Ben Davies, I don't think, has quite got that quality. Hence the reason why Dogi's always going to be playing. Dogi's always going to be playing in front of him. I just don't know whether or not Ange trusts him or whether he's trying to keep everybody kind of, well, at least battling, because Emerson Royal has played well at centre back when he came in for us.
Yeah.
But we were kind of lucky. There was times I was thinking, oh, we're going to get away with it, and we did. Darius, I'll come to you. We're just chatting about the fact that, you know, we've been a bit predictable in terms of how we play. You know, teams are beginning to find us out. Is next season going to be a different season for Ange Postecoglou? Is he going to look at maybe playing different styles, not necessarily a different philosophy, but certainly maybe a change of formation, maybe go to a back three at times. Don't know, a 4-4-2. I know it's probably not as fashionable as it used to be, but some teams still do play it, and even Manchester City still play it. And the example I give was Manchester City versus Man United, where John Stones was playing number 10. Do you think that Ange is going to change in any way his style of play to tactically to maybe offset some of the ways that he's been found out? Because he has been found out. Let's not get it twisted. He has been found out. That doesn't mean to say it's not going to be successful, because I said the quality needs to be there. And if we improve our quality, yes. Do you think he's going to stick to his guns and just, that's it, Celtic, Japan, I said it again, Japan and Australia? Is he just going to go for it and not give a toss?
Has he not proved that to you that he's going to do that? I mean, the man spoke himself. And again, I'm not faulting him. I'm not getting onto him. But the man told us, he said, I'm going to play how we play. After that Chelsea game, I saw everything I need to see. And I will not ask the question of trying to be pragmatic and trying to change his style, because he ain't going to do that, unfortunately. I mean, is it normal for somebody to play the same way we play, which is already risky, when you have 9 players on the pitch and you lost 2 defenders? It just, from that game on, I think everybody should have realized we're not going to change the way we play. And the thing is, with formations and stuff, I feel like it's a little bit redundant to talk about it, because it's kind of positionless, our formation. Obviously, we have the wide players holding width. We have centre backs really actually not staying in their centre back position. I don't think anybody really stays in their position for a long period of time, apart from maybe the goalkeeper in that formation. So, like you said, it's more about the principles and the style of play, and he isn't going to change that. So, if he isn't going to change that, and teams are starting to work out how to frustrate Tottenham and beat Tottenham, where's it gonna, like, who's gonna give? What's gonna give? And my thing is, you either have to make that squad so good that the style just outshines every sort of flaw about it, or sort of the team outshines every flaw about the style, or you're gonna have to start to try and maybe be a little bit smarter with how you play games, because he does make tweaks, but at the end of the day, we don't have the quality to do what Man City did, as you explained. John
Not
Stones,
in depth. I think we've got quality, but not quite in depth.
I don't think we have the quality to do that even though. Like, I'll be honest with you.
What of our first 11 and 12?
Well, yeah, the
Given
first
that
10
we had
games.
10 games. Given the first
10 games were great. It was amazing. But again, like you said, it was something that the Premier League hadn't seen before. It was a new way of playing. It was a different way of playing. And now, you know, people don't realize that there's a whole team of 100 odd people, probably hundreds. I'd say there's a team of 100, maybe 10, 20, whatever you want to say. But there's a whole data analytical side of football clubs that have endless tape of these clubs and these teams and the way they play. And once you play them once, they are going to work on how to literally minutely pick out each detail of your tactics and how you set up. So from when these teams have played us once and they've worked them out, and obviously they've gone back and seen how Celtic play and stuff, they're going to know how to defend against that. So you're going to have to change something, or you're going to have to completely make that squad, you know, unstoppable. And I feel like, you know, managers like De Zerbi having the same issue. Go into the Europa League, he got popped by Roma 4-0 because he does not know how to coach defensive structure. And Ange is better, but he ain't great with the full. And you know, you look at the defense he has. It's not the defender's fault that they've conceded a lot. That's why I will always fight for Romero, Van de Ven, Vicario in these arguments with, you know, Arsenal centre backs and Man City centre backs and whatever, because I do think they are some of the best defenders in the league. It's just the system's going to make them look worse because we are set up to not hold goal. We're not set up to keep the goal score low.
Can I ask you a question then, based on what you're just saying then? If we had Ben Davies and Emerson Royal for the majority of the season at centre-back, and you can both answer this, do you think we'd be still playing the same way now? Yeah. If they'd have played 10, 15, 20 games, let's say.
Yeah. I think until it got like to the point where his job was in jeopardy, then I think he maybe might go against the thing. But I think he's an old enough man now he ain't changing nothing. He ain't changing.
We've seen that, didn't we? We've seen that when Romero and Van de Ven were injured. He played the same system. He's not going to change the system. He'll just put the players in there. The system's not going to change.
Now, is that to some Spurs fans, that seems like a positive to me. That's not a positive to me, in my opinion. I don't praise that sort of decision making because it's putting the players in a disadvantage who are already at a disadvantage in terms of position. So to me, that's not a positive. But sorry, you were going to say something.
I guess because we know those players. He coaches those players every day, so he sees what we don't see. We've got the benefit of seasons worth of Ben Davies and seasons worth of Emerson Royal. So we kind of have a little bit more of a clouded judgment about them. Again, having been a coach myself, I know that you have to see players on a regular basis, see how they train, see, you know, attitudes make a difference. You know, players turning up on time, what they like in training, what they like in recovery, what they like attitude-wise when you don't get picked. All these things are factors in why players get picked or don't get picked. But ultimately, it does come down to quality. You know, it comes down to quality players. So
it comes down to tactics as well. We can, like I said, it isn't just quality. We can all agree. Like, I'll give you a completely random example that's just popped up in my head. It's a random example. We can all agree Julian Alvarez is a fantastic football player, right? Been in the Premier League only a year, shines in multiple positions. But if City were to, let's say, out of a random necessity, decided to play long ball and hoof the ball up and bypass midfield, and Julian Alvarez was playing up front, he would look like one of the worst players on the pitch because that style is not going to cater to a man who's 5'8" and can't get off the ground. So it's not necessarily that I'm calling the players bad as well, and I'm not calling the manager bad. I'm just saying that it doesn't align. Like, you can't play Emerson Royal, you can't play Ben Davies in a system where you can't play Eric Dyer in a system where you need them to track back 30 yards, 40 yards against fast strikers in the Premier League. It ain't going to work. So that example I give, you try to play a style that doesn't cater towards the players you have on the pitch, it isn't going to work. And that to me seems like insanity because it's like, even I can see that Ben Davies and Emerson Royal playing against a high line or playing in a high line is going to equal goals conceded. That's just obvious. And it's not improved. That's why it's like, okay, the tactics are an issue because even with Romero Van de Ven, we still concede goals. Vicario is the best keeper in the league, in my opinion. But he doesn't look like it because he's conceded a lot of goals and, You know,
Oh, he
stuff
still
like that.
looks like it. He still looks like it because the fact that we can say that he has.
Statistics wise, if you don't watch him and you look at how, because people go off how many clean sheets a goalkeeper's got based on who's had the best season or save percentage, you know. But Vicario's not had that many clean sheets. But that doesn't mean he's bad. That's not his fault.
No, Sid, where do you think we stand? Because as I said, I think without Vicario in the back of the net, and I know we've had Van der Ven and Romero missing, so we've had a problem at the back. The problem so much for me is not a case of Emerson Royal and Ben Davies being terrible. They're not terrible. They're players that you could bring in. You have to have squad players. You have to have squad players, but they're more defensive minded. What I'm trying to say is, in that fullback role, this is why I kind of got onto Dragosin. I think Dragoson's a better footballer than those two. And if you're going to play this midfield, because if we're going to be on the ball a lot of the time, those players are going to play midfield roles. They are playing in midfield. They might, on paper, as you said, start off in the right and left back positions, but they're playing in midfield. You need a different type of quality if you're going to play in that role, unless you're going to be coached and know how to do it. Now, these players have had enough time this season to have been coached. I watched Emerson Royal in the last home game. I think Sid probably the same. And I don't know if you agree. And I said we don't have to agree. But I thought he was okay. But that's what I'm saying. He was okay. He didn't look like, we're going to get something. There was a few opportunities. He had one cross across the box, which, if players were on their toes, they might have got there. But it was few and far between. I wasn't like Porro thinking, yeah, he's got the ball. He's going to make a cross here. We're threat. It wasn't like that. And even Porro, defensively, he's had to learn that role. He's had to also, but he's a better quality player. So when he plays in that midfield, you can see his quality. He's had to learn to play as a midfielder that goes into wide areas to defend. And also to be overlapping and underlapping and all the rest of it. So you need the intelligence. I'm not saying that Ben Davies and Emerson were not intelligent, but I think they lack quality in those positions. So again, Sid, from your perspective, if like I said, and my question was on that same question, if we were to go this whole season and we were playing Ben Davies for the majority of games and Emerson Royal at centre back, would you be happy that we were playing the same way?
So Emerson, and I think Leslie's put it in here, Emerson and Davies didn't concede as many goals or didn't concede any more goals than Van der Ven and Romero did when they were both playing centre back. So like Darius said, it's the system. It's not necessarily the players. Sometimes it's the system. It's not their fault. Now, going back to the Crystal Palace game, Sam, we both were there. The amount of times Emerson was in that middle, right? As soon as the ball was played out, he was playing as I think, more of a Basuma role, in that around. So if you play Dragusin as at right back, right, for example, you can then push Romero into that role. And I would be more comfortable with Romero in front as when we're going forward, because Romero likes to take the ball and eat a Cadbury's flake, the way Cadbury's caramel, the way he takes the ball and slows it down and whatever. He could then pop into that position because he would be more comfortable and, in my opinion, better than Emerson Royal would be. Because Emerson Royal is always like a headless chicken when he's got that ball in the middle. He doesn't know what to do, his first touch or whatever. And then you push, if we need to, you push Dragusin in to play the centre-back role with Van der Ven, right? And then you go backwards again if you need to. So in that instance, I think Dragusin as a right back might be a better option than having Emerson Royal, because at least that way you've got defenders that actually can defend. And if we want to go forward, Romero can just slightly move forward. But going back to your question, I think system's never going to change at the moment. And it's going to be, we're going to have to, we're going to have to see it out. We're going to have to stick with what Ange says, and we're going to have to, watch it. If we're not happy with it, it's going to be tough luck because he doesn't change. And you've got Romero, you've got Van der Ven, you've got Emerson Royal, and you've got Ben Davies that can play centre-backs, and you've got Dragusin as well. Problem we've got is the wing-backs, when they get injured, is who covers for them. And unfortunately, like you've already mentioned, we haven't got adequate cover, or we have, but it's not good enough for the system that he wants to play. So
that's the point I'm trying to make. It's for the system that we play. I don't think those two long term, don't get me wrong, they can play it short term, but long term, if they were if I'm seeing Emerson Royal as our fullback and I'm seeing Ben Davies as our fullback, I know that after 5-10 games, we would definitely have a problem, in my opinion. Now, they might be fantastic, but they have to play out their skin most of the time. I've seen Udogie not have to play 100%, but he's strong. He's good on the ball. He can attack. He can defend. Nobody gets past him. Very, very rarely 1v1s you see him get beaten. Yes, he makes mistakes because he's young, but he's learning from those. And I'm hopefully that, we've signed him up until 20, whatever it is, 2030 or whatever. I can't remember. Long-term contract.
Suge Knight contract.
a proper Suge Knight contract.
Good.
But we still need somebody behind him. We still need someone pushing him. Maybe a similar sort of. I don't think you're going to get a more of it, because if we'd have had, what's his name, who's gone?
Sirkin.
No.
Oh.
Bloody hell! He's gone to. He was playing
Reguilon.
left back for us.
Reggie.
No, not Reguilon. The Croatian.
Oh, Perisic.
Perisic. Why don't I
Oh, how could you forget Perisic?
I don't know. He's just gone from my mind. I've got brain.
He was playing left wing though. That's the thing.
But
He was. I think
he could have played that
Postecoglou
role.
had him set for left wing. To be fair,
You know what? Yes, you're probably right. But in that role, I think he could have done a good job. I think he could have been definitely fielding better. Well, that's just again an opinion.
that's sad. The Perisic thing makes me sad because I think he was really. I think he would have. It would have been perfect role for him to come off the bench, have impact all up and down the pitch, experience. I think, like I said, him doing his ACL, wasn't it, that happened?
Yes, it was a strange one, wasn't it?
Heartbreaking. I really am heartbroken because I love Perisic before he came to Tottenham, and I just think that he found his role, and I think he was beginning to not accept, because I know he kind of was thinking about leaving. He's getting on age, but I think he was, the way he started off and he was getting good minutes, because let's not forget, he was coming on like 65 minutes. He got a couple of assists. I think he was gonna realize that his role that he would have in Spurs was more than he thought, and I think he would have been happy to stay a year at least. So I'm sad about the Perisic thing, but you are right. I think the only question I asked you now was, because you've got a 21 now, 21 Udogie?
21.
20, I think.
Now you've got a 21-year-old that's starting left back, who's, in my opinion, up there with some of the best in the world. Do you get another young left back to compete, or do you get someone with experience in that position to compete, or do you get like a Swiss Army knife type player who can play in multiple roles, so you necessarily don't have to give him as many minutes in that left back? What sort of profile of backup would you be looking for?
Sid, what's your thoughts? Because I've got my thoughts.
Yeah, do you know what? First and foremost, we get rid of Cest. And then, listen, I'm looking at Liverpool. Look at the 17, 16, 17, 18-year-olds that they're bringing in at left back, right back, in the middle. And that's quality backups. And they're bloody keeping Robertson and Trent out of the game now because their performances are good. So in my opinion, I would look for our academy first and foremost, because they've got to have somebody who's good enough. And Sirkin was one of them. Then there's a couple of others. There's got to be someone in there that can come in as an understudy to Destiny. And you're not going to get games you might not even get a game for 6 weeks. But if you have to come in for that one game, you want a youngster to come in because he's going to be so eager to prove himself, to make a stance. Ideal. And I'll go back to Liverpool because at the moment, their youngsters coming through are just mental. If you go for an experienced player, will you want to come to Spurs, sit on the bench as a number 2 to Destiny, knowing that Destiny is probably going to be one of the best left backs in the world? No, not going to come.
Unless you pay him a lot of money.
Yeah, and we end up paying a lot of money as well. So I think that avenue's out of the question. I don't know if you guys heard or read the interview or the article or whatever comments by Reguilon yesterday or the day before about why he left Spurs, and he said he's still absolutely miffed because he said in pre-season he said he played really well. Spoke to Postecoglou. Postecoglou said, "Yeah, man, you're good. You're playing really well. Keep it up." Blah blah blah. And then he said, obviously, as the season came nearer, I went up to him and said, "What's the score?" And he said, "Yeah, you're in our plans. You're in the squad. You're going to be part of the crew and stuff like that." And then he said he went all quiet. And then he said, I went back to him and I asked him, and he said, "Yeah, we're going to announce the squad and you're going to be in the squad." And then he said, the next morning I came in and I was told that you're not in the squad. See you later. But he said, I was told that I was in the squad and there was no murmurs or nothing about me leaving. And then he said, to this day, I still don't understand. I was in the squad. I was told I'm going to be in the team. And then he goes, I was told that I'm no longer needed and gone on loan. And he's still miffed about it. And he said he's heartbroken because he thinks he's got something to give at Spurs and he could have done. And I was like, wow. So I think he could have been a good backup. And I think he would have been happy because he done well at Man United.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, if he's got something to give, why is he not giving it for the past 2 years then? When he's been put in situations that have favoured him as well, position-wise.
But the thing is, we don't know what happened in the Conte, and we don't know. They've had issues at clubs, haven't they, with certain managers? Look at Spence. Look at Reguilon's probably one of them. He's done well at Brentford. He's done well at Man United. Man United fans now are going apeshit because they said, why did we get rid of him? Because Luke Shaw's never fit. Dallow's covering. He gets injured. So them fans are now saying we should have kept him because he's doing quite well at Brentford. So as a backup to Destiny, I think we had Reguilon already there. I don't think we needed to, like you said, go out and buy another player. But
I agree. My thoughts were, and you probably both mentioned it, I've got two schools of thought. You could have someone like a Perisic, someone of real quality, maybe tail end of their career, knowing that they're not going to play every game because they can't play every game because of the injury, potentially if you're older, but has got experience, who's maybe won things in the past, you can come in and bring, because we have got one of the youngest squads in the Prem. Before I go on, make sure you hit that like button. There's loads of you watching. Make sure you get your comments in, hit that like button, smash that like button. Keep doing that for us. Paxton Road TV, PRTv Spurs. End of advert. Back to it. We do have to have a backup. Now, there's, as I mentioned about the slightly older player who's happy to, not necessarily, no, that's probably wrong, comfortable, not happy, because no player should be happy sitting on the bench, but he knows his place, knows his role. Or, as you said, Sid, you've got a really hungry youngster who, if given the opportunity, will come in and do exactly what the likes of Liverpool's youngsters have done, the likes of Newcastle's youngsters have done, even Man United youngsters have come in and done, because it's part of your necessity to see if these players are good enough. I don't think we've done that with our youngsters. We don't know whether they're good enough because they haven't had a long enough time to play. And I'm talking about academy youngsters, not talking about the whole squad, because we've got quite a young squad anyway. Son being the oldest of that, and everybody else is around about 26 and under, roughly, apart from the keeper and stuff like that. But we've got a fairly young squad, Roy Beers and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so I don't know. I don't know what Spurs are looking for. We should have the same thread throughout the whole squad in terms of how they play, in terms of the whole club. So they shouldn't necessarily learn to have to come in and play the game if you've got that thread of philosophy for your whole club. They should be playing the same system. So maybe that's one of the reasons why he doesn't necessarily change too much, because for that reason, if you then bring somebody and you've changed to a back three and they've been playing in the academy as a back four and 4-2-3-1 and all the rest of it, you're asking them maybe to play a different role, because you have to play a different role if you're playing a back three slightly. So again, there's different reasons. We're not in the inside, but I'm leaning more on the case of our academy youngsters. We don't have to then pay the money. If you then want to pay the money for quality players, strikers, that's where you're going to have to put the money in. If you want someone to bag goals, that's where the money goes. But not necessarily if you've got someone who's hungry, young, potentially really good quality, you could maybe then bring them in to supplement somebody. Because, going forward, is Dane Scarlett going to get us 25 goals? Is he going to get us 20 goals?
We don't
It's
know.
a hard job.
But you don't expect, that's the thing, you don't expect them to do it, but you wouldn't know that Conor Bradley was going to be that good unless you got the opportunity, like Sid says. So it's like, for me, giving them little pity 5 minutes here and there at the end of games ain't really, it's not proving or showing anything to me. So again, I understand crunch time, 11 games to go. You need to pick up as many points. I don't think Jurgen Klopp would have played all those Jaden Dans and all them kids. He wouldn't have played them if everyone was fit,
Correct.
Obviously. What?
Of course not.
But he also would have found out that Conor Bradley's a baller if he didn't play him. So
exactly.
But we wouldn't have played Ben Davies and Adoji at centre back for periods of time if we didn't have the lack of players at the time, which also then shows Dorrington. Is he good enough to step up? Because if he doesn't get an opportunity when Ben Davies and Emerson Royal, and I keep using these two names, and I'm sorry if people think, why am I going on about these two?
It's not scapegoating, because it's not. That's the backup centre backs that we had at the time.
100%. But we've got youngsters who are back up.
Exactly.
We haven't had the opportunity to see them. We went out the cups early-ish. We didn't get to see them in that. So when are we going to get to see them? Are we just waiting till someone does get a long-term injury? What is it, Sid?
Ashley Phillips is another one, isn't it? Prime example. I mean, look at
I think he's the biggest one,
Wharton.
isn't
They bought him. Brentford. Is it Brentford? Palace bought him. He's gone straight into the team. We bought in Ashley Phillips, who was recommended and apparently has got higher. What's the word I'm looking for?
Ceiling.
Yeah. Then Wharton had, but we bought him and we've not even played him, and now we've sent him out on loan, and Plymouth fans are going absolutely waxing lyrical about him. But when we was given the opportunity to play him, they didn't play him. So this is the difference between us and the likes of Liverpool's, City's, Arsenal's. They're Man United. I don't even go as far as Man United. They're putting in these youngsters because they have faith in them, and you know, Everton as well. You have faith in the players, so you play them. Okay, you might have a bad game, but you're never gonna know until you play them. So,
well,
I agree
Leslie
what you
Crawford's
said,
got
Darius.
a good comment here. Sorry, Sid. I just wanted to get Leslie comments in because I know we've got to wrap up. You're going soon. Udoji and Sarr had played a season on loan. Dorrington has only played against other kids so far. That's true, but Mainu at Man United,
Jarrell Quansah for Liverpool.
Quansah, there's quite a few that
loads of
haven't
examples.
been out on loan that have come in because they've had to come in and have done pretty damn good. The guy, the 17-year-old at Newcastle, sure, he's not been out on loan.
Nope.
He's come in and he's playing regularly. Mainu,
The
Man United.
midfielder?
The midfielder, yeah.
Lewis Miley.
Miley, yeah.
Yeah, he's good. He's
Kobe
really good.
Mainu. I keep going back
Kobe
to his name
Mainu.
because
That's another one. Like
that's another
I didn't
one.
think I you know what's so funny? You brought that up, and that's a great. I think that's the best one to make in terms of when we're trying to make it this example on point, because Man U fans or friends of mine who are Man U fans told me about Kobe Mainu, but they were speaking about Kobe Mainu like I spoke about Dane Scarlett, Troy Parrott. Like, you know that they've got potential because they're in your club and your academy, but you don't really believe anybody else, you know, outside of the club. Nobody really believes you. And I was the same with Kobe Mainu. But as soon as I saw him play, all my days, I was like, yeah, this kid's, what have they been doing hiding him? Like, and that's now probably saved them what in this market, £80 million, 80 to 100 million pound.
And would they have known that unless they pushed him into this position of having to play Champions League? The Champions League they were playing, they played Champions League games.
Yeah, they got knocked out.
They got knocked out, but he played in that, and he played some big games.
Scored a big goal in the Champions League.
Massive goals. So yeah, we won't know, but it's interesting to find out what next season is going to bring for us this season. Final thoughts, then, Sid. I'll start with you. For this season, what do we get? What do we get out of this last 12, 13 games, whatever it is? 12 games, I think it is.
We got a full squad of players back. So potentially now we're back at full strength. We are where we were at the beginning of the season with the players. Everyone's there. All right, Bentancur's not 100% fully fit yet, but apart from that, everybody else is back. I'm hoping for them players now to come out and deliver what they did at the beginning of the season. Starting on Sunday with Villa, big game. I know some people are saying it's not a massive game. I think it's a big game because if we don't, they're a couple of points ahead of us. I think 5, aren't they? If they beat us, then they go potentially. I'm gonna just have a double look on that. If they beat us, then potentially they can go. Where are we now? They're 5 ahead of us. If they beat us, they're 8 ahead of us. It's catch up them big time, massively. So for me, that's a big game. And then we just every game now. I mean, next month is a hell of a month, isn't it? In terms of who we're playing: Liverpool, Man City, Newcastle, Arsenal, maybe Chelsea, West Ham. We got to go back to this last season, one game at a time. We're not in any cups. We're gonna probably have a week of rest, maybe not. We just go into every single game, try and win every single game, and get as many points as possible. Don't worry about the rest of the teams. We've just got to go and do our job. And I'm just hoping that our job is not to just sit back and get a goal, sit back. I want them to do what Arsenal did to Sheffield United, first 15, 20 minutes. Sam, you've been saying it week in, week out. First 20 minutes, how important. Go out there, put the teams in, put 1 in, put 2 in, put the game to bed, and then you don't take the foot off the pedal. That's what I want to see. It's not going to happen, but
particularly at home. If you do that at home, it's a risk reward scenario. And the other team, if they're cute and they can get you on the counter, it is a risk and reward. Man United probably a team that could, we did that in that first half against them at home, and they could have scored 2 or 3 goals, and we didn't. But if you do get that goal, it just changes everything. It changes the mindset. It changes the tactics potentially the other team. Yeah, they might not change it immediately at 1-0, but you get a second goal, they have to change it. 2-0, you have to then score 2 goals to at least get a draw, 3 to get a win. Now, a lot of teams come to us not expecting to win, but they come to us thinking that they can get away without losing. We have to go to Aston Villa, and that's got to be our mentality. We can take the win, but we cannot come away with a loss. We cannot. Darius, final thoughts?
First thing I want to say, shout out to Leslie Crawford, because
he's coming up with some stats.
Points he's been making has been amazing.
Yo,
I forgot Conor Bradley was on loan at Bolton. He was player of the. I think he was their player of the season at Bolton as well last season. So I do think it is. I do think every player needs to go out on loan for at least a year before they. Unless you're a superstar, unless you are a really, really talented player, you do have to.
But you would know that. They would know that already. If you're a superstar,
I think you have that. Everybody has that. Like, oh yeah, that kid's special, but. We thought that flipping Sessegnon was special, and then look what happened to him. Hamstrings fell apart. So things happen to players, things happen to teams, may change things. But at the end of the day, just on what we spoke about today, and the title of the video and talking points, I think Sean also mentioned it in the comments. I think we are in a better position than a lot of the teams when they had their managers starting off. I think we are ahead of schedule. However, those managers have a history in adapting and tweaking when needed to their tactics and, their style of play. If we are going to continue to play the way we play and have so much of the ball, that's a positive in my opinion. Any team that has 70%, 60% possession is always going to have less threat towards their goal. However, something does need to change regarding our defense because, the old cliche is attack wins game and defense wins leagues. So it's all fine scoring goals, but if we're conceding 2 as well as scoring 2, it's going to catch up on us soon enough. So, and I think it has done in this season. We were definitely keeping pace. I know certain people were talking about challenging for certain titles. I never said that because I knew what the situation was, and I knew that the squad also wasn't strong enough to do that. However, we are ahead of schedule. None of us predicted a top 4, top 5 finish. So there's so many positives to take from this regime and this, start to Ange's tenure. However, I have seen things that I think, I'm not concerned. I'm not turning, but I think eyebrows are starting to raise. Let's just say that eyebrows are starting to raise because we do need to, as much as we are seeing the great football, great football doesn't win you trophies necessarily. I know it gets you so far. So you need to have the full package. You need to see everything from top to bottom. And when I can really see us, behaving in the way like, for example, I hate to bring them up, but the way Arsenal have bounced back, nobody thought Arsenal was going to come and challenge for the league again. Everybody thought every team was going to get stronger. They've added players to that team now. That Rice signing, we can see now how much impact it's had. Saliba obviously being fit. It's a spine. It's a strong spine that, is heavily predicated on defending. They are the best defensive team in the league, and now they are the best offensive team in the league. So, there's loads of things we can talk. I think, like I said, there's loads of things to talk about. But from what we spoke about so far, it just seems like I want to see a little bit more pragmatism and maybe a slight tweak in our tactics because
in the next episode. Yeah, I'm sorry to cut you, but I know that my message's got to go, so we've got to push on. Thank you to all the viewers watching. Make sure you smash that like button. Leslie Crawford, thank you very much for your contributions. Fantastic. Sean again in the house with us as always. John Fitzpatrick, it's been good. JJ as well. So make sure you hit that like button. Share this all around, all the content, all the rest of it, all the rest stuff PRTv, Spurs, Patson Red TV. That is it. We will be back for the preview tomorrow. Sid's going to be back tomorrow for that, and we'll be jumping on with him to hopefully give some good predictions. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Come on, you Spurs. That is it. I've got the music this time. It's all in place. PRTv, we'll be back. More develop,